I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe give me insight between black and white. And the best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all.
Yeah.
Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear. I wrapped my fear around me like a blanket. I sailed my ship of safety till I sank it. I'm crawling on your shore. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, and I drank from the fountains. And there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source, closer I am to find.
Yeah.
Closer I am to find.
Yeah.
I went to see the doctor of philosophy with a poster of Rasputin and a beard down to his knee. He never did marry or see a B-grade movie. He graded my performance. He said he could see through me. I spent 4 years prostrate to the higher mind. Got my paper and I was free. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, and I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source, closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. I stopped by the bar at 3 a.m. to seek solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. I woke up with a headache like my head against a board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before when I went in seeking clarity. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. Yeah, we go to the doctor, we go to the mountains, we look to the children, and we drink from the fountains. Yeah, we go to the Bible, and we go through the workout. We read up on revival, and we stand up for the lookout. And there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source, closer I am to find. Yeah, closer I am to find. Closer I am to find.
Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, a beacon of light in this community since 1865. I am the Reverend Kimberley Debus, and I'm honored to serve as your sabbatical minister while your senior minister, the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, is on a much-deserved time of rest and rejuvenation. I'm coming to you today from my studio in the DC metro area where it's sunny and thinking about getting above freezing. A special hello to those who are online like me and to those who will be watching later. Now, the technology gremlins are active today, so if you hear some weird static or weird sounds, just know it's them and not our amazing tech crew. If you are new to us and online, please introduce yourself in the chat and fill out the survey at uuaa.org/newcomer survey so we can more easily connect with you. If you are new and in person, I invite you to a newcomer welcome held in the Redmond Room just after the service. It's just outside the sanctuary doors, the first room on your left. And there's a sign, and there will be a very friendly someone there to answer any questions you might have about the congregation or about Unitarian Universalism. Now, a note about today's service. If you're online, get a piece of paper and cut lengthwise a long strip about 1 inch wide, and maybe grab a pen. You'll need it later. Folks in the sanctuary should already have a slip of paper. If not, an usher can help you get one. And yeah, pull out a pen. Now, it appears we're about just past the halfway point of the sabbatical already, and it's time to get started on your contribution to the While You Were Out scrapbook that will welcome Reverend Manish back to Ann Arbor. If you haven't already, we'll have sheets of scrapbook paper in the social hall, or you can pick them up in the office, and add to them anything that says, I thought of you. Pictures, quotations, art, book lists, questions, reflections, anything you want to share with Reverend Manish, and we'll collect those pages in March so we can present this to him upon his return. All UUAA members and friends are warmly invited to attend the winter congregational meeting on Sunday, January 28th. This will be a Zoom-only meeting with a member check-in starting at 10:10 a.m. Excuse me, and a pre-recorded worship service starting at 10:30. The congregational meeting itself is scheduled from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. See the UUAA Weekly News for the meeting agenda and the Zoom reservation link for the meeting, which is also posted on the UUAA calendar. Excuse me. Now, let us find our center and bring our attention to the sacred hour with these words from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. We have already missed too much beauty, our minds so mixed up with multitasking, toggling back and forth between hope and fear, worry and wonder. The sun rises with an insistent light, and the morning breaks with the promise of the holy, disguised as babies gurgling and dogs groaning, snow covering up the just shoveled walk, and the flame that is kindled week upon week with promises to love and to serve and to dwell together in peace. All this day asks is that we risk showing up with our eyes open, that we may bear witness to the whole of life, the stories we ourselves carry, the things we have tried to forget, the times we have been wrong or have been wronged, to let in this much love, this much grace, to know ourselves part of this possibility, to remember and forgive, to heal and be better. Come, let us worship together.
"25 years ago, on January 24th, on a winter's day not unlike today, although likely not quite this cold, a group of about 100 adults and youth accompanied this chalice for over 6 miles in a procession across town, from its home on Washtenaw to this new building. Not unlike the Olympic torch moving through a city on its way to its final destination, the chalice was handed off to about 24 different people along the way. The congregation was on the verge of a new beginning. It was moving into a new building, a new space for growth, and a place for all the hopes of the future. And I wonder what that felt like. The challenge of it, the logistics of it all, the excitement of this new adventure that the congregation was taking on. Now, some of you here today actually do remember what it felt like, and I'm guessing that many embraced the idea of a move, even with the uncertainty it entailed. And it wouldn't be a Unitarian Universalist congregation if there were also those who were not excited and who did not think the move was a good idea. And some of you may be here as well. Change is difficult, and it's inevitable. But look at this congregation now. It survived that move, it grew, and within 5 years, the education wing was added. And it has since survived changes in leadership, in ministers, and for goodness sakes, we survived a pandemic. I would say we are thriving, and even as we wrestle with new transitions and changes that face us today. My introduction to Unitarian Universalism happened in this space, and I'm very grateful to those ancestors who made that possible. You will see the Chalice procession from 25 years ago in a short video, and you may recognize some younger versions of yourself and friends in the video. And because it really is a lot of fun to figure out who is in this video, you can watch a longer, unedited version in the social hall after the service. It will just keep looping, so you can go in there and take a look. So now I will light this chalice in honor of our 25th anniversary in this space. The transferring of the chalice flame 25 years ago was a powerful symbolic gesture of the continuity of this faith in the community. We have been a presence here since 1865. And I would like to invite Barb Hall to come forward to help us light our chalice today. Barb had the honor of lighting the first chalice in this building when they had the first service after that move. So our current chalice was made for the congregation by member Kyle Connolly not too long after the move. The design represents the wheatgrass that grows on the land that we acknowledge as not our own, but that of the Anishinaabe people among them the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. Now, if you have a candle or chalice at home, I invite you to light it with us and let us know in the chat where the flame is lit. And with Barb's help, let us say together our chalice lighting words. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you. Our covenant is the promise we make about how we are in relationship with each other. It is foundational to who we are. A covenant distinguishes Unitarian Universalism from other faiths that adhere to a creed, a singular statement of belief. And as we speak the words of our covenant together, remember, it too made the journey 25 years ago, just not in such a dramatic fashion as the chalice did. It was carried into this space in your hearts. It's a statement that centers love and action. And all present here are invited to speak the words together, whether you are here for the first time or you have been with this congregation from well before that move. Please join me as we say with intention, the spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. The spirit of this church is love. I feel like the time for all ages is an embodiment of that statement. It's a time we lovingly welcome, indeed radically welcome all into a time of learning. The time for all ages recognizes that we all learn in different ways and allows space for that to happen. It's a time we get to visually engage with a story that is brought to life through reading aloud and supported by a musical soundtrack. It's a time when we don't hesitate to laugh or cry. It's a time we can just delight in language and images that are accessible to the youngest among us and yet contain wisdom for even the most aged and everyone in between. Today's story looks at a very human emotion, sadness, which might feel like sorrow or grief or depression or loss. At one time or another, sadness is a part of everyone's lives. So let's see how one little boy makes space for it. A Shelter for Sadness by Anne Booth and David Litchfield. Sadness has come to live with me, and I am building it a shelter. I am building a shelter for my sadness and welcoming it inside. I am giving it a place to sit or lie down, to curl up very small or be as big as it can be, to run around or stand still, to be very, very noisy or very, very quiet, or anything in between. In this shelter, my sadness can turn to the wall or look out through the window, in the middle of the night or in the day. The windows will open to let sounds in or close to keep them out. The shelter I build for my sadness will have light from the sun or from the moon and stars. But the windows will have curtains that my sadness can draw when it wants to, and light, if it wants, from candles or lamps. Lots and lots of light, or no light at all. My sadness can sit in darkness if it wants to, whatever it feels like. Because this is the shelter for my sadness, and it has a right to be there. And I will make my shelter strong so that in winter my sadness will be safe against the storms. But I will give it a little garden too, so that in the spring birds will come and build their nests and green shoots will peek through the dark earth. In summer, roses will bloom, and their scent will steal in under the door, and my sadness can open the windows and breathe in and smell them, if it wants to. In autumn, my sadness can look out at the trees and cry when the leaves turn red and orange and fall to the ground. Or it can go out and run through the leaves and hear the sounds they make. It can build bonfires and dance around them, or sit quietly and watch the flames. Anything it needs to. Sometimes I will visit my sadness in its shelter every day. Every hour, if needed. Sometimes we will run into each other's arms and hug and cry and talk. And sometimes just sit next to each other, saying nothing. Sometimes I will be too busy to visit my sadness for a while, but that's okay too. I have built a shelter for my sadness, and it is safe inside, and nobody will hurt it. I can visit whenever I need to, whenever it calls to me, and whenever my sadness wants, it can come out of its shelter and hold my hand. And we will look out at the world and discover how beautiful it is, together. If you are a regular here, you might be wondering, where are all the kids today? Once a month, we hold what we call a children's chapel, a time for children in grades K through 5 to gather and explore spirituality through music, story, a message, and activities. And today is one of those Sundays. And guess what? The kids have also just heard this very same story. Please know that you are not broken when you feel sad. You are still a whole being deserving of love. May your sadness emerge from the shelter you have built it when you are ready. And may you find the world beautiful and full of love and acceptance.
Our congregation is home to an abundance of social justice groups, all working to bring our dreams alive in the world. To help us keep track of all this dizzying activity, we set aside time for social justice connections, when groups are invited onto the chancel to tell us about their work. Today we will learn about the new program undertaken by our Climate Action Climate Justice Group in collaboration with the Food Justice team. Sandy Simon and Colleen Crawley are here to tell us more about this ambitious project, and they will be assisted by Kate Hutchins and Isaac Van Kempen. Please welcome them warmly.
Good morning. I am Sandy Simon from the Climate Action Climate Justice team, and I'm really excited to be here today with Colleen Crawley and Kate Hutchins and Isaac Van Kempen, because we're going to be kicking off a new program called Year Zero. Could I get a drum roll, Dawn? Okay, we are now in Year Zero. And what exactly is Year Zero, you're asking? So in 2024, we're going all in on our Vision 2050 climate goals to get as close as we can to zero carbon and as close as we can to zero waste. These are both really ambitious goals. But soon we're going to be installing solar panels on the roof right above you, and you're going to hear a lot more about zero carbon at that time. But today we want to get started with zero waste, and so let's talk about that. Colleen?
Thank you, Sandy. I'm Colleen Crawley, and I co-chair the Food Justice team. I'm delighted to be here with you. Did you know that 38% of food that is grown or produced ends up as waste? Annually, the U.S. alone creates 80 million tons of food waste, or the equivalent of about 149 billion, that's billion with a B, meals that end up in the landfill. More than 1/3 of all human-caused greenhouse gas emissions is linked to food. But I'm not here to cause shock or dismay. I'm actually here to tell you about an exciting new program being introduced at UUA. This week, we begin a relationship with My Green Michigan, a company that turns food scraps and waste into soil. Our job is to collect the food waste we generate and put it into bins that will be collected every 2 weeks and turned into compost. There will even be opportunities for you to bring your food waste from home. Many thanks to Deb Markham and Debita Graham for getting this started, but it's going to take volunteers. Can you occasionally monitor a bin in the social hall during coffee hour, or help keep food out of landfill by volunteering at a Friday fun night? Perhaps you'd like to learn more about composting at home, but maybe you are a good person to teach others about this. There are many rules for volunteers. Really, it's going to take each and every one of us to make this program a success. Stop before you throw something away. Make sure it's going in the right bin.
Mom, could you throw this away from me? No, don't put it in there. Put it in the compost. Yeah, that one. Because landfill makes things go in the landfill. And the landfill is bad because it produces greenhouse gases, which is bad for the environment. And compost turns all the things you put in there, well, most of the things, if they're in the correct bin, and they turn into soil while they decompose. No. No. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Isaac, for helping us start to sort this all out. It's going to take some time, and we'll be working on it. So, people often ask how they can possibly remain hopeful and what they can do when facing just an enormous problem like the climate crisis. And the most frequent answer that I hear to that is join a group, get involved. So please join in with UUAA, and let's work together in community to help our planet get on a brighter path. An advance thank you to all of you who are going to pitch in, and we know you're going to help make Year Zero an amazing success. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy and Colleen. And thank you to Isaac and Kate. I can think of no better introduction to our weekly offering, which today will go to the programs and ministries of this congregation. As we turn our hearts to the spiritual practice of giving, let us reflect on the depth of our congregation's work, so far-reaching and profound in its impact. Remember, too, that when we give, we act mindfully and communally. This is a shared practice. We are here together, and together we give. There are a number of ways you can take part. For digital options, you may text UUAA to 73256 or visit uuaa.org/giving and select weekly offering for the fund. Or you may drop cash or checks into the baskets. And thank you for your generosity. I invite the ushers to please come forward as this morning's offering is gratefully given and received.
From the water, from the rocks and the dirt, you were the first person on earth. Oh, the mountains and the oceans witnessed your birth. The first person on earth. By a river on the banks of a sandy shore, untouched, clean, fresh and pure. The first person on earth. In the light of the sun, you emerged to see the good in the world before the pain and the scourge. The first person on earth. In the quiet, in the calm, before the storm, you heard of the dream for a love that never dies in a poem. The first person on earth. And I'm in love with you. I'm in love with a dream that cannot be realized, held or seen by the last person on earth. After the earthquakes, the hurricanes, the fires and the floods, I'm jaded, cynical, angry and glum. The world's too absurd and obscene for true love. I'm more than happy to let me become the last person on earth. To let me stand on a rock the mighty waters surround, abandoned, alone, the end soon to come, as the last person on earth. As the waters rise at the end of the world, though I bear the weight of the rocks and the dirt, I know I'm worthy of your love as the last person on earth. As the waters rise at the end of the world, though I bear the weight of the rocks and the dirt, I know I'm worthy of your love as the last person on earth.
Thank you. As our ushers now come forward, I invite you to please rise, in body or in spirit, as you are comfortably able. And let us speak with intention as we say together our words of dedication. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. You may be seated. Our reading this morning is a poem by Mandie McGlynn entitled Broken Wholeness. What's broken is never going to be whole again. It cannot be mended. Entire pieces are missing, and I can't even say where they've gone, how big they were, or what shape. And even if by some unlikely coincidence, some strange miracle, you were handed back the pieces that broke away, they won't fit together again. Too much time has passed, so much rough scrubbing and cold washing, and the edges that were once sharp and clearly defined have softened, smoothed. The broken place hasn't gone away, hasn't been filled with gold. But it won't cut your fingers now. If you touch that edge, you won't bleed anymore. The edge is full of character, interesting to look at, pleasant to touch. And what's broken is obviously broken, but it is also now, after all of this time, whole.
So this guy's walking down a street and he falls into a hole. Now the walls are so steep he can't get out. A doctor passes by and the guy shouts up, "Hey doc, I'm stuck down this hole. Can you help me out?" The doctor writes out a prescription, throws it down the hole, moves on. Then a priest walks by and the guy shouts up, "Hey father, I'm stuck down this hole. Can you help me out?" Priest writes out a prayer, throws it down the hole, moves on. Then a friend walks by. "Hey Joe, it's me. Can you help me out?" And the friend jumps in the hole. Our guy says, "Are you stupid? Now we're both down here." And the friend says, "Yeah, but I've been down here before and I know the way out." This story, which I know from the TV show The West Wing, is meaningful for many. It touches something deeply true about the places we sometimes find ourselves in. Certainly, I've found myself there, in that broken, hard place where the shards of broken things are sharp and the hole is seemingly too steep. For some of us, it manifests in what Quaker author Parker Palmer calls the divided life, when we find ourselves caught between our work and our personal life, or the public face we have in our inner life. We wear masks, only revealing so much, never really having a chance to fully integrate. For many of us, this is complicated by isolation, exhaustion, loss, illness, depression. And once we acknowledge that we're in the hole, well, we do discover that there are plenty of people more than willing to offer just the right answer to your problem. For some, it's turning your life over to Jesus. And others offering help through the relentless pursuit of wholeness. Madison Avenue and the self-help industry tell us that wholeness is everything and can be achieved for a price. And I don't know about you, but the more I hear how I have to fix my flaws, the deeper the hole gets and the more broken I feel. This desire for wholeness can then cause more pain because, like so many of the empty capitalist promises, wholeness, the way it's sold anyway, is a myth. So what does that mean for getting out of the hole? If wholeness isn't the answer, what do we do? How do we ever get out? Well, sometimes someone unexpected jumps in the hole with us. Or, well, somebody's book anyway. In my case, it was a book called The Joy of Burnout by psychologist Dina Glauberman. In her book, Glauberman talks about the physical, mental, and psychological exhaustion that comes from our drive to be everything, do everything, take care of everything, balance everything. But instead of calling us to fix the problems that led us to burnout, she suggests that we can get out of this hole by learning from the burnout. The first lesson that burnout teaches us is simply wait. Right? Waiting means we have to give up the struggle, take a break, breathe, listen. Waiting isn't easy because in the waiting, down in that darkness of the hole, things still seem awful and hurtful and empty. We realize we are still broken. We're not whole. We are profane, not sacred. We are ugly, not beautiful. But the waiting gives us time to hear what might help us. So for me, it was a throwaway line in the middle of something else Glauberman was talking about that stopped me in my tracks. She wrote, I asked life that tormenting question, why is it that you always give me everything but the thing I really want? And life, like a good Jewish mother, answered a question with a question. Why is it that whatever I give you, you still complain? I realized that the hole was telling me that I had nothing, was nothing, and was always going to get nothing. The way I saw it, I was unredeemable. And so, in what I thought was an act of defiance, I said, okay, book, I'll show you what I don't have. And so I made a list. It started realizing that I had a pen and pad as I was pulling it out to write on it, so pen, pad. And then the sofa I was sitting on. And then my cat jumped up and I added cat. And then the bookshelf across the room, and of course the books, and oh yeah, subscriptions. And I looked at the desk and I saw more pens and markers, a computer, a mug from my alma mater, a picture taken with a friend, and soon the paper was filled to the brim. I then began to sort these items out into what seemed like good categories. And I realized that not only did I have a lot of what I needed, food, shelter, employment, and a lot of other things higher on Maslow's hierarchy of needs too. Friends, family, hobbies, health insurance, transportation, security. And those things then pointed to the intangibles, a sense of humor, an artist's passion, a love of language, curiosity, compassion, and a sense of connection to something bigger, something we might call hope. And then Glauberman's second lesson of burnout is give up hope. Now, as she explains, giving up hope is about letting go. It is the opposite of homelessness, she writes, because it is in trusting ourselves and in what we may be given half a chance and loads of patience. So it's about forgiveness and relieving pressure and mostly giving up hope for a better past. I'll repeat that. Giving up hope for a better past. We cannot change what's happened in our lives, certainly in the pandemic or previous elections. We can't change what's happened in our career or our families. We can't change the choices we've made. We can only learn from what we have done and experienced. We can only keep the faith. Glavberman's third lesson. Keeping the faith is about surrender, deciding that we can trust ourselves and that we are already whole. Of course, we wonder, how can I already be whole? I'm a mess, I'm cracked up, I'm full of cracks. But then Leonard Cohen reminds us that there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Which is a lesson that a particular Hindu goddess reminds us of. Her name is Akilanda Shvari. Now, Shvari in the Sanskrit means goddess or female power, and Akilanda means essentially never not broken. In other words, the always broken goddess. Writer Julie Peters notes that Akilanda derives her power from being broken, in flux, pulling herself apart, living in different constant selves all at the same time, never becoming a whole that has limitations. The thing about going through broken times is that one of the things you lose is your future, your expectations of what the story of your life so far was going to become. And that, of course, is terrifying. But Akilanda invites us to make a choice in how we go forward. We gave up hope for a better past, so our stories about the past don't dictate how we go forward. We're in flux, flowing in new ways, always, with this incredible opportunity to decide how we want to put the pieces back together. We have a choice to hide the brokenness with carefully hidden repairs and a new coat of paint, or honor the brokenness like kintsugi, the Japanese art of mending broken pottery, with a celebration of copper, gold, and silver. Because no matter how we treat the cracks, we get to put ourselves together back in new ways. No matter what anyone else thinks or says or wonders about how we are doing it. No matter how many times we are told that we are broken, ugly, worthless, whether those messages come from others or ourselves. Every broken bit of ourselves is our key to wholeness, full of cracks and differently beautiful. We can start putting the pieces together, understanding them not as separate parts of our divided life, but as a beautiful set of elements that are part of our never not broken whole. And when we start doing that, we see that our lives are not just our own, but that we are connected to other never not broken people who travel with us on the journey. In his book, A Hidden Wholeness, Parker Palmer says the journey toward inner truth is too taxing to be made solo. Lacking support, the solitary traveler soon becomes weary or fearful and is likely to quit the road. The path is too deeply hidden to be traveled without company. Finding our way requires the kind of discernment that can happen only in dialogue. We need community to find the courage to venture into the alien lands to which the inner teacher may call us. As I emerged from a particularly hard time in the early 2000s, the journey took me to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Saratoga Springs, New York, a perfectly loving community that held me in the expansive embrace of our faith. This faith that teaches that our very humanness means we have worth. and that there is always a place for us, even in our brokenness. As the Reverend Robert Walsh writes, Universalists believe that the fate of the human being means that no matter how rough the trip might have been, or how badly you might have behaved, at the end you could come home and it would be a place of trust, safety, and love. Trust, safety, and love, not just in our congregations, not just our families, but in the very totality of life, the universe, and everything. A place of trust, safety, and love where we can be never not broken. So in that, I am whole. You are whole, holy and sacred, full of holes and whole. Every single one of us with the cracks and scars that are evidence of a life lived through grief, trauma, sadness, and illness. Every single one of us going through things no one else can imagine. Every single one of us always in flux, always putting ourselves together differently. Every single one of us with our own stories of how we got out of the hole. Every story sacred and valuable and meaningful. Every single one of us never not broken, but instead called, as always, despite of and because of our cracks, to love anyway. In the blessing of brokenness, we can find a measure of comfort, a call to grace, a shot at redemption, and joy. Joy in having made it out of the hole, joy in helping others out, joy in loving, joy in the very complex, beautiful brokenness of life itself. We are meant not to be perfect, but to be humans in our human messiness, offering each other redemption through our struggles, through our generosity, through our inclusive, expansive ways of putting our faith into action, to loving the hell out of the world. Not fixing, not redeeming everyone in one fell swoop, but simply by being beautiful, holy, broken, complex humans. Sometimes the wholeness of our imperfect brokenness is still hard to see. And so I invite you to now hold on to the strip of paper you received on your way in or what you cut at the beginning. You're in the sanctuary and you still don't have one, raise your hand and an usher will bring it to you. If you're online and you came late, just get a long strip from a piece of scrap paper. Now, on one side, imagine and write, if you have a pen or pencil, those things that have hurt, the ways that we have been harmed, the things we may have done, things we are ashamed of, things we miss, those things that you hide away often. Take a moment and write them down, a word or two. Now, take that and flip it over. And on the other side, imagine words of encouragement, of hope, beauty, and kindness. Maybe things you know to be true, or things folks have said to you that you're not quite sure are true, but they keep saying it. Again, you may feel compelled to write a word or two on this side. Now, take that piece of paper and make a circle with it. And hold it together with your finger. Here you can see that division. What is shown outwardly looks different than what is inside, what you show yourself. And it's divided, separated, a step away from the open-hearted engagement with the whole of our life that our faith calls us to. But now, hold the paper like this again, and then give one end a half twist. And now, hold them together again, just like so. And suddenly you have a Mobius strip. Now take a moment and trace your finger. And look at those words along the surface, inside and outside. But what's inside is outside, and what's outside is inside. And it's all connected. Whatever we try to hide or feel like we have to hide, we can embrace as the fullest expression of ourselves. No matter what messages we get, no matter what we still feel like we have to hide because it's broken or worthless or shameful, this Mobius strip reminds us, as our faith does, that we are still whole. So as you continue to run your fingers along the strip or consider these messages, I hope you hear the message of our closing song, number 1053 in the Teal hymnal, How Could Anyone? We'll sing it 3 times. First, we'll sing it together to remind us how it goes. The second time, sing it to your own heart. And finally, the third time, sing it to others. Because how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you that you're less than whole?
If you would, rise in body or in spirit, and again join in singing 1053 in the Teal hymnal. How could anyone? 1053.
Brian Andreas says, when you start to crack open, don't waste a moment gathering your old self up into something like you knew before. Let your new self splash like sunlight into every dark place and laugh and cry and make the sounds you never made and thank all that is holy for the gift. because now you have no choice but to let all your love and goodness and beauty spill out into the world. Go in love, go in joy, go in peace.